Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry and today we'll be having a playthrough of Xenoshyft Onslaught. This is a science fiction themed tower defense deck building game. Yes, try saying that 3 times fast. So basically the theme is you're some sort of space troopers trying to fight off a onslaught of aliens in the form of different insects or bug-looking creatures, similar to the movie from the late 90s, Starship Troopers. So, again, you're a tower defense. You're trying to fight off and outlast or survive the onslaught of wave after wave of these different aliens. So let me first of all explain the object of the game. Again, like I said, you're just trying to outlast your enemies, the different aliens, which are represented by these 3 decks here, these 3 different hives, hive 1, wave 1, wave 2, and wave 3. And each of them increases in the intensity or the strength of these enemies. So as you progress through different waves, the enemies will get harder. You play this game through the course of 9 rounds. Every 3 rounds corresponds with 1 wave. So every 3 rounds, you're going to pick up the level and the difficulty. But as the game advances, you're also going to have more and more things available to you. And if you can make it through all 9 rounds and your base's life or hit points is still not exhausted, then you have won the game. This is a cooperative game, but we will be playing a solo version of this. The game comes with a full-blown solo version. Very, very simple, very easy, because first of all, you set your base here, the life points, the health points of it, and it's always going to be 15 per player. So if you're playing 2 players, it's going to be 30, 45, you're playing 3 players, and so on and so forth. With a solo game, you just set it at 15, and that's how we go. So let me explain the setup here. First of all, we have ability tokens. These are here just to place on your cards to indicate and remind that you've already used their special one-time around abilities. You also have these red tokens here, which are the hit point tokens. So you place this on your cards or on the enemy cards to indicate that they've taken damage. The players start with one of these divisions. So there's 6 different divisions of this company, Nortech Industries, and each player is basically in charge of a division, and basically it just sets you apart from the other players. It gives you a few special cards that are added to your starting deck that are different from every other player, and a few special bonuses that are applicable to each of the different waves. And for example, you have something that a special ability that you have from wave 1, but you keep on having it through wave 2 and 3, and then you have special abilities that are activated by wave 2 and wave 3 as the game progresses. We shuffle all of these different hive cards, wave 1, 2, and 3, and we add bosses. Bosses are like special, more difficult enemy cards into each of these decks. So basically, if you're playing a 1 or 2 player game, you shuffle one of these bosses into its corresponding wave. And if you're playing 3 or 4 players, you shuffle 2 of them into there. And you hope not to run across these bosses because they're very, very powerful. We have 1 currency in this game, which is the Xenoshyft. And we have 3 denominations of it. You have the 1, the 3, and the 6. This is the money / energy that you find in this universe and in this game. And now you have your different units. And the units are separated into waves. So this upper row here, you can purchase these cards whenever you want. As a matter of fact, this is militia. This is just the starting unit that you have in the beginning of the game. So you don't actually purchase them. But you do have the ranger. And then here on this row, you have units that will become available to you starting wave 2 and going forward. And then finally here, you have the strongest units of all, which won't be available to you until wave 3. And over here, you have the different equipment cards. And the game comes with about 20 different equipment cards. You randomly select 9. And there's 2 types of equipments. You have your armor cards, which are indicated by this green little shield symbol right here. And they help you in different ways usually adding to your life, to your hit points, so that you become stronger and can endure more damage. And then you also have your weapons, which are indicated by this yellow pistol symbol right here. And these add to your attack. So let me explain the anatomy of a card here. So your units look like this. They have a special ability here in blue text. They have, which can be used once per turn. They have their power right here. That's how much damage they deal out to their enemies. And then they have their hit points or their health right here. And that's how much damage they can endure before being knocked out. All right, so you have your equipment set up here. You have, each player has their own lane. So I'm the only player playing. There's just one lane. And the lane consists of two little player boards here. One represents the Nortex side of things. This is where you're going to be placing down your units, who will be basically fighting off the enemies from the hive that you will line up on this side of your lane, right? So I'm going to shuffle, and I'm just going to show you how this game plays. So first of all, at the beginning of the round, you always draw cards equal to 7. So you draw 6, I should say. I'm sorry, I apologize. 6 cards. You draw 6 cards. And the first thing you do is you have the acquire resource phase, which first of all starts by acquiring the Xenoshyft of the wave you're in. So the number 3 Xenoshyft won't be available to wave 2, and the number 6 Xenoshyft won't be available to wave 3. But Xenoshyft 1 is available, and you start your turn by grabbing one of these. So now I look at what I have, and I have 6 Xenoshyft in my hand. And the way it works is you spend this Xenoshyft, this money, and you cannot keep any of it from round to round. What's interesting about this deck building game is any unplayed card, if you want to, theoretically stays in your hand going into next round. Usually in deck builders, whatever wasn't used was lost in that sense. However, your Xenoshyft will be lost. You cannot hoard Xenoshyft into a future round. So I will spend this 6 Xenoshyft, and I will look at my special ability here. And it says once per round, I can reduce the cost of 1 card with a shield, so basically an armor card, by 1 to a minimum of 1, right? So I can lower the price of anything down by 1 once per turn. So if I wanted to get one of these, I could lower it to 1. And I think I might just do that. So I have 6. I get to acquire any combination of things I want. The only unit, and you really want units primarily because your equipment cards need to be wielded by units. They cannot just operate by themselves. So it doesn't matter how much equipment cards you have. If you have no units to wield them, you're kind of screwed. So I'm going to buy 2 Rangers, and each Ranger costs me 4. Now, the interesting thing about this deck building game, again, very different than other deck building games, this does not go to your discard pile to be shuffled and drawn later. It immediately goes into your current hand. And I still have 2 left over. I just spent 4. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to grab this one right here. Oh, no. It has to be a shield one. So I'm going to grab this here, the GHM Vindicator Armor. I grabbed 2 Rangers. Now I'm grabbing this armor. It normally costs 3, but because it's an armor equipment, and I have my once around ability here, I get to lower it to 2, which makes a total of 6 for the cards that I acquired this turn. So now the next thing that you do is you deploy your units. And the way it works is, first of all, you put them in any order you want. And you could always rearrange this constantly, except for when you're actually engaging in combat. But any other point in the game, you can rearrange this. So you place them in the order, and basically the card that goes here, or the unit that goes here, is going to be the first line of defense. This is going to be the first unit that engages in battle with the upcoming hive. So you've got to factor that in as you choose the order. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add a Ranger with this Vindicator Armor. So I slide this armor underneath it, and each unit can carry up to 2 equipment cards as long as they're of the 2 different types, an armor and a weapon. They cannot carry 2 weapons. They cannot carry 2 armors. They can carry 1 armor and 1 weapon. So I've added this armor to the Ranger here. I'll add this other ranger here, and I'll leave my militia here all the way in the back because he's kind of weak, right? And now what you do is you deploy the enemy cards as well. So there's 4 slots here. We will add 4 cards, 4 wave 1 cards, and we add them face down. So you don't know what's there, right? You can't really anticipate this. And now that deployment is done, we will engage in combat. And this is the way combat works. The first thing you do is you reveal or turn face up the rightmost card on the hive side of the lane. And you see if it has any reveal abilities here. And it does. It says, place this enemy at the end of the enemy lane. While in lane, all enemies receive +1 power. So this is the smoker. And basically what this guy does is he makes all of them receive 1 more power. And power, again, is how much damage you deal. So they're going to be dealing much more damage. Okay, so we're going to repeat this process because this guy was moved over here. And we're going to reveal this card here. And we have the Gatherer. He does not have a reveal ability. Instead, it says, each time this enemy kills a troop, he deals the base 1 damage. So this guy's dangerous. If he hurts me, because these guys are like a buffer, right? They protect the base. But once they're compromised, then the base will take damage. Well, this guy, just for killing a guy, is going to get a bonus of dealing 1 damage to the base. So now what we do is the rightmost enemy and the leftmost unit from Nortec are going to engage in combat, and they're going to deal damage to each other simultaneously. And if either survive, then the one who survives keeps on battling. If both survive, they go in combat with one another once again. So the Gatherer here has 2 power and 2 defense. And the Ranger here has 2 power, and thanks to his armor, he has 5 defense. So he's going to take his 2 damage, which is going to be indicated by these two life tokens here, or these 2 damage tokens here. But that's still not enough to kill him. He's still alive. He's got 5. And when this troop is killed, oh, I didn't even read this power. This is an amazing power, his armor. When this troop is killed, which he hasn't been killed yet, he gets to deal 1 enemy in his lane damage equal to half of his life points, his total life points, rounded up by 1. So in this case, half of 5 would be 2.5. You would round it up by 1, it would be 3. So he would get 3. All right. He would deal damage to an enemy of his choice of 3. But in this case, his 2 power is enough to destroy the Gatherer, so the Gatherer is dead, and that's 1 less enemy to worry about. And now what we do is we slide the hive cards to the right, and we repeat this process. So now this card, oh, wait a second. A big thing here. I forgot that this guy here, the smoker, gives 1 more power to each of the enemies. So really, he dealt 3 damage to my Ranger. Okay, now I'll reveal this here. And we have the Shield Swarm. And this card, again, has a reveal ability. And it says, place this enemy at the end of the enemy lane. While in lane, reduce the damage that all enemies suffer by 1. So that is something else. So now they have 1 guy that helps enemies deal more damage and another guy that helps enemies incur less damage. So it's already looking pretty frustrating here. So now we will reveal this card here. And this does not, the Charger does not have a reveal ability. Instead, he just has a regular ability here that says, this enemy deals any damage exceeding a troop's hit points to the next troop in the lane. Because normally, if you deal excess damage, it doesn't matter. If you had enough to kill that enemy, they're gone and there's nothing else. But this guy allows you to use any of the surplus energy or the surplus damage to incur it or to deal it to other players. If there are no additional troops in this lane, the base suffers this damage instead. So this guy is pretty powerful. So again, these 2, the rightmost enemy and the leftmost unit, are going to engage in combat. They're going to attack each other simultaneously. He deals 4 damage thanks to the Shield Swarm here, or to the Smoker, I should say. He deals 4 damage, which he only needs to deal 2 to this guy, because this guy has 3 already, and he has a total life of 5. So that will be enough. And now he has 2 left, and because of his power, he deals it to the next guy in the lane. Right there. And this ranger has 3 life. He's taken 2 damage. He still survives. My ranger here has power of 2, but because of the shield swarm, which reduces the damage that they take by 1, this charger will only take 1 damage. And he will survive this confrontation, but my ranger won't. And what happens when cards are defeated is they're not destroyed. They simply go into your discard pile. And I already had my Xenoshyft here, and I now add this to my discard pile. Okay, now I slide the ranger over here, slide the militia over here, and we continue in this song and dance. And again, the charger is going to deal 4 damage, which is going to be more than enough. Oh, wait, hold on. My ranger, thanks to this GHM Vindicator damage, Vindicator armor, is going to get to deal 3 damage to the enemy of his choice. And I'm actually going to choose to do it to the... I'm going to choose to do it... Oh, wait a second. The charger's dead because even though he only took 1, his life is only 1. Oh, that's great news. This guy's gone. Okay, so let's slide this over. But let me determine who I want to deal that 3 damage to. I'm actually going to deal the 3 damage to the smoker because he adds to their power. So he only had 2, which means that is not, well, this actually reduces by 1, but it's still more than enough because this guy's life is 2. So he's gone as well. And now we slide this over here to the right. And now we will engage in combat because all of that was the result of the charger and the ranger defeating one another. And because of that, the smoker, because of the GHM armor, was also taken out. So now we will go toe-to-toe. This guy will deal 1 damage to this ranger, who will deal only 1 damage to him because he has the power of reducing the damage of all enemies by 1. So he only takes 1 damage. His life is 2, so he still survives. This ranger takes his 3rd damage, which is enough to knock him out. And now he's gone. And now we slide the militia over here, and we will engage in combat once again. And the militia will deal 1 damage to the shield swarm, and the shield swarm will deal 1 damage to the militia, and that is enough to knock each other out, and they are gone. Now, what would happen here is if the hive or the enemies still had cards left over after all of my units had been eliminated or knocked out, then they would take whatever the sum of their power is, and they would deal that damage straight to the tower or to the base, and you would lose that much health. So you want to be able to, you know, ward them off, hold them back. You don't want to have lots of people left over. Maybe 1, at most 2 enemies. As the waves progress, it becomes, you know, more serious, the damage that they can deal. So with even more reason, you want to like fight and defeat as many of them as possible, not have too many of them left over. But again, as the game progresses, while the aliens and the enemies are becoming more and more powerful, you also have more cards available to you. And of course, as most typical deck building games, you are increasing the value of your deck and culling weaker cards. So let's simulate a second round. So we are now in round 2. We will indicate that here with this chip. We move on to round 2. You draw a new hand of 6 cards. Again, as always, you grab a Xenoshyft. And by the way, if I would have had any troops left over, they would remain there, right? So it's great when you have a unit left over that you could save for the future round, right? So I grab the Xenoshyft there. I have only 2 Xenoshyft. Got to discard them and use them. Again, I do have the power that I could use once per round to reduce the cost of a armor card by 1. And since I have 3 units here, I actually am going to do that. I'm going to get another GHM Vindicator armor. I really like this. It happens to be the only armor I have here. So it's the only card that I could use this specific bonus for. I could buy some cards. There are some cards here some weapons that only cost 2. But I'm going to get this one here and add it because I only have militia, and militia are very weak defensively. But I do happen to have 3 armor cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add each of my militia here. And I'm going to give each of them a armor to make them a little bit stronger. And some of the bonuses here, again, the GHM allows me, once this unit is destroyed or killed, to deal that much damage to the enemies. And this other APS Pulsar armor lets me once per round look at a face down enemy card, and I could discard that enemy and replace it with another face down enemy card. So if I ever take a peek at an enemy and I'm saying, whoa, I don't want that enemy in my lane, I don't like what it does or how strong it might be, I always have the option of getting rid of it and replacing it with a new one. Okay, so there's that. Now, again, we add the Wave 1 Hive cards here. Oh, sorry, I put that face up. My bad. We add the Wave 1 Hive cards here. We add 4 of them. And now we will engage in combat. So I will reveal this one first right here. And we have the Bile Roach, which actually happens to be a boss. This symbol here on the upper right indicates that it's a boss. So this guy is powerful. Even though he's just a Wave 1 enemy, he already has a life or a health of 4. And he has power of 3. He does not have a reveal ability. So now we're going to engage in combat between the militia and the Bile Roach. And the militia is going to be able to deal 2 damage to the Bile Roach. However, this guy, he only has, even with his armor, he only has a life of 3, which the power of 3 here is more than enough to kill him. Or I should say, it is enough to kill him. Now, let me see what the Bile Roach's power says. It says, each time this enemy kills a troop, burn that troop. And burn is basically the terminology in this game for KOing or destroying a card. And deal the base 2 damage. So he is going to have enough to kill the militia here, which means I'm going to have to burn this card, permanently eliminate it from my deck, which I don't mind because that's a weak card. It would have sucked if that would have been a good card, but with the militia, I'm totally fine with that. And he's going to deal my base 2 damage. So I'm going to lower this from 15 to 13. Right there. And because this guy had the GHM Vindicator armor, he's going to deal half of his health, rounded up, which would be 1.5, rounded up would be 2. He's going to deal 2 damage to any enemy of his choice. And of course, I am absolutely going to choose the Bile Roach here because this sucker is dangerous. So by getting 2 more, that totals his damage to 4 and his life is 4. So he is gone. So the militia served their purpose. Barely by the skin of their teeth, they were able to get rid of the Bile Roach. Now we slide all these other cards to the right and to the left. We reveal this card. Well, actually, let me use my once per turn ability here to look at these cards, because I might not want to see these cards. So we got the Corpse Eater. Ooh, the thing about the Corpse Eater is when he dies, it says here the first time this enemy would be killed, instead place it at the end of the enemy lane and heal it to 1 hit point. So it would be weak, but you would still have to kill it a second time. And the first time would be pretty expensive because it has a health of 3. So I do not want this guy here. So I will discard it and replace it with another one. And I will place one of these blue ability tokens here to indicate that I use that once around ability. And I'm going to use the other APS Pulsar armor, which is the same exact ability, to take a peek over here again. And it's the Worm Host. And basically the way the Worm Host works is if it kills one of my troops, it would take over that troop, and you would grab that troop, discard whatever equipment it might have, and add it to the end of the enemy lane. So that would become an additional enemy that I would have to combat. So again, I do not want this guy there either, so I'll discard him and replace him. Okay, and let me place this ability token here to indicate that I've used it. Now we'll reveal this here, and we've got the Shield Swarm again. And again, we place this enemy at the end of the enemy lane, and it reduces the damage that all enemies suffer by 1. This guy is a thorn on my side. Now we will reveal this one here, we've got the Charger again. And the Charger will deal 3 damage to the Militia, who has a health of 3. So at least there won't be no surplus because the Charger would otherwise deal it to the next opponent. So that's enough to defeat the Militia. And his 2 power, reduced by 1 thanks to the Shield Swarm, is still enough to defeat the Charger, who only has a health of 1. So he's gone, and this Militia's gone. And we will slide everybody over. And now we have the Gatherer. And each time this enemy kills a troop, it deals the base 1 damage. So this is a very scary opponent in that sense. So the Gatherer has a power of 2, but my Militia, thanks to the APS Pulsar armor, has a life of 3. So that 2 will not be enough to kill him. However, because the Militia's power is 2, and the Shield Swarm lowers the damage incurred, the Gatherer will only take 1 damage. And now they will fight again, which the Gatherer's 2 power will this time be enough to defeat the Militia. But also the Militia and their 1 damage that they deal thanks to the Shield Swarm will be enough to get rid of the Gatherer. And again, the Gatherer, because he killed a troop, will lower my base's health down by 1. So we were at 13, and we will now lower it to 12. And now we are done with the combat phase, and we have to look at what is left. And this is the Overrun phase. And because we have a surviving enemy, we look at the total of power that they have, which is just 1, luckily for us. And we apply that 1 damage to the base, lowering us from 12 to 11. As you can see, we've only played 2 of the 9 rounds, and I've already lost 4 hit points. So this game gets dangerous very, very quickly. So that's pretty much it. You continue going through that cycle. Again, once you make it to wave 2, you will have harder enemies to face, but you will also have the 3 denomination Xenoshyft to help you buy more cards. You will be able to burn these Xenoshyft in your discard pile to acquire more 3 denomination Xenoshyft. And you will also have this second row of troops available to you. The equipments, the weapon, the armors are always available to you. But this second row of units will become available to you starting in round 4, which is wave 2. And in wave 3, starting round 7, you'll have this 6 Xenoshyft available to you. And you'll also have this bottom row of units. Furthermore, you'll also have the special abilities that your division, your own special player powers, so to speak, provide for you starting in wave 2 and wave 3. These will be added as the game goes on. So you are going to get more and more powerful in proportion with how powerful the enemies become. And basically, you're just trying to survive this game, go through 9 rounds. If at the end of the 9 rounds, your base has any health left, you have won the game. Very interesting fact to note, just in case players who are interested in playing this with 2 or more players, is that this is kind of a simultaneous play game. So players are acquiring cards at the same time, discussing with each other. I think you can buy a card and place it in someone else's lane. So that's something you could do. You could place, however, if you buy a card and place it on a player's lane, that card will go into the players who the lane belongs to into their discard pile whenever it's defeated, and it'll permanently become part of their deck. But the point is, it does have that cooperative feel of things where you truly are kind of just one team, and it's not just several players, yes, with the same objective, but basically doing their own game. In this game, when you play cooperatively, you are really playing cooperatively. You are one mind. You are one body, per se. Well, that's it. That's pretty much it for this game, Xenoshyft Onslaught. Thank you so much for joining us here at When Harry Met Board Games. I am Harry, hoping you guys are all staying safe and healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.